सूर्यो मे चक्षुवाता प्राणो अंतरिक्षुआत्मा पृथिवी शरीरं माता भूमि पुत्रोऽहं पृथिव्या
अंडमानीज इस द्वीप समूह का एक जनजाति है.
There are 6 types of tribes in Andaman. The Great Andamans tribals are one of them. The outsiders were trying to disturb these Great Andamanis by killing them. In 1858, a penal settlement was done by the Britishers. The Battle of Aberdeen is the war between the Great Andamanis and the British Army was held in 1858 in Aberdeen Bazaar, which is located at Port Blair. The Great Andamanis fought the war by using bows and arrows, but Britishers used guns and bullets. The Great Andamanis struggled to safeguard their motherland. In this battle, the Great Andamanis population was drastically came down to just a few hundreds.
As you know, Great Andamanis as a tribe is virtually wiped out, and their culture is also not anymore intact. And they started losing their culture or their traditions, or I should say even the language. The journey of extinction started almost 40 years ago.
They are Hindus in origin, black in color. Their hip portion is little broad and short legs. Okay. Their height wise, they are not very tall.
Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi.
A large number of children died because they were not used to the contact again of the kind of contact that the Britishers produced. So this had been going on before independence. Only after independence in early 70s, the government of India decided that to save them, they put them in the Strait Island.
Before the Battle of Aberdeen, the Great Andamanis' total population was more than 8,000. In the year 1961, the population reduced to 19 only. These 19 people were scattered and roaming here and there. Indian government was worried that their population will become zero. To keep the population intact, the Andaman and Nicobar administration decided to keep them in Strait Island, which comes under Andaman and Nicobar territory. And then the population slowly started increasing. At present, there are 53 people living.
The tranquil pace with which these great Andmanese tribes bloomed and blossomed in sync with nature has been a subject matter of intense anthropological academic debates. What exactly is the mystery behind their history? What is the secretly embedded code of their DNA? What is the profound understanding behind their ethnic and racial heritage? The great process of natural selection did make an impact here too. The onslaught of never-ending galaxy of acceptance and rejection by nature has been going on and on in this virgin island. For more than 80 to 90,000 years, virtually unseen and unheard. Whereas, over 2 millennia, there existed perfect harmony and balance between Andmanese way of life and nature's zigzag way of moving forward. Truly, these are representative instances of perfect coordination between man and nature, being absolutely contributory and complementary, and certainly not man versus nature. This rhythm continued seamlessly until cacophony started setting in from the 19th century. What could be the de facto reason behind the decaying equation? Great Andmanese as tribes remained simple yet powerful, strong yet sociable, and at the same time are vibrant harbingers of great generational wisdom. As a cohesive community group, they are intact, close-knit, and not easily vulnerable to internal or external negative impacts and pressures. In fact, the bizarre inbuilt social network and net worth of great Andmanese provided innovative remedies and native solutions to a plethora of challenges and obstacles. Their animalistic life reflected what is enshrined in the ancient Indian text of Atharva Veda.
सूर्यो मे चक्षुवाताः प्राणो अन्तरिक्षो आत्मा पृथिवी शरीरं माता भूमिः पुत्रोऽहं पृथिव्या.
Atharva Veda 5.9.7. Sun is my eyes, air is my prana, sky is my soul, earth is my physique, and I am child of the earth, symbolizing equanimity between nature and man. Thus, this serene atmosphere continued for over decades, centuries, and even thousands of years. But at last, the inevitable cracks and fractures started happening even to these tribes. Interestingly, neither disease nor disasters, nor even delinquent practices were responsible for the slow annihilation of these tribes. To be precise, the monsters came externally through the idioms of growth, development, and greed for land. Although it is possible to undertake back projection to map out the demographic pattern of these tribes, a milestone statistics is presently traceable to British India sources. This enumerates a population figure of 8,000 individuals belonging to great Andmanese tribes of having lived in the year 1858. 100 years from then, to be precise, during 1961, the population of these tribes came to a double-digit figure. The panic was alarming, and there was compelling need to determine the cause of worry before the lapse out and an apocalyptic fear of the tribe's population further shrinking to a single digit. On the long march of history, at one stage, Great Andmanese were stranded and alienated in their own native soil, thanks primarily to the entry of Britishers. This, in turn, triggered a long history of skirmishes between Great Andmanese and Britishers. In fact, and due to this, Great Andmanese were credited with the idea of engineering the first war of independence. Although these things still remain unnoticed. In other words, the alarming reduction of Great Andmanese tribe is more due to the advent of aliens, who always camouflaged their intrusion under the garb of growth and development. To be precise, man's exploitative intervention, harsh geographical isolations, threats and intimidation from rival tribes became a regular storyboard to explain the loss of primordial tribes until a sudden and violent Holocaust struck Andaman on a December Sunday, a day after Christmas, 26th December 2004. Even the strongest poem of Tennessee Williams, quote, "Wave rushes towards us with its hospital tray of infinitely varied narcotics, even while it is preparing us for its inevitably fatal operation, will pale before the madness it caused on that day. As nature struck, it came not as a single spy, but as battalions creating a devastation of unimaginable magnitude and untold misery. Until that moment, ocean waves reverberating as musical rhythm turned ferocious, causing havoc, terror and catastrophe. These spine-chilling visuals of human life loss will be undulating in memory for years to come, creating ramifications beyond comprehension. Monster, diabolic, draconian, whatever you may call it, it is sheer ocean madness. Natural disasters always strike with a battle cry. In this case, coastal waves, which normally rise to the height of 2 meters, suddenly took to a height of 30 meters, causing terror and leaving absolutely no scope for premonition and the idea of early warning redundant. Being situated in the oceanic midway, Andaman and Nicobar Islands was completely drenched, soaked, flooded, inundated in madness, thanks to the fast, fierce and ferocious fury of December 26, 2004. To put it succinctly, this is not an earthquake, but the aftermath of the earthquake, the tsunami. While the entire South Asian coastline was violently rocked, the genesis was in the Indian Ocean, adjoining Indonesia. Seismological scientists were unanimous to point out that the tsunami which occurred on the 26th of December 2004 was one of the most powerful ever experienced by mankind in recorded history. The violent thrust of the precipitative wave conditions travelled as far as 1,600 kilometers and stands as ample testimony to the catastrophe it created. In terms of human tragedy, it is the worst for having impacted more than 14 countries by redrawing coastal lines. By all standards, the recording of 9.1 on the Richter scale was a definite indication of the severity and the furious realignment of tectonic plates. The tsunami-related statistics are mind-boggling. In terms of human life loss, the tragedy is just incomprehensible. At one sweep, this unusual wild wave condition extinguished 2,27,893 lives, making it as the single biggest disaster of such a magnitude unheard previously in the history of natural disasters. The credibility of this figure can never be doubted, as it is sourced from the US Geological Survey studies considered to be both respectable and authentic. Sri Lanka, another affected country, declared a missing head count of 30,000 persons. Also, Sri Lanka, being a tourist destination country, is yet to account for 9,000 tourists, many of them from Europe, who had congregated in the island nation for celebrating Christmas. Aptly, the then Secretary General of UN, Kofi Annan, described it as a calamity which will take 5 to 7 years to restore the emotional setbacks and property loss. 26th December 2004. This disaster has no parallel or precedence in history. Disasters having past record provide sufficient inputs to gear up, whereas this one came up as a stranger's strike, making it impossible to devise or refer back to standard operating procedure while mounting relief operations. Perhaps for this very same reason, the United Nations termed tsunamis rescue and relief operations as one of the biggest exercises undertaken in human history. Therefore, it is not surprising that Indonesia, Sri Lanka and Maldives governments declared a state of emergency to deal with this deadly stranger. The response in India was swift and rapid. Recalling this disaster on that day, a high-ranking officer of the Indian Army, who was among the first to reach the tsunami-affected areas, has this to say.
The site I saw in the beach of Madras, that is Marina, was a terrible sight which I would never forget. After the tsunami had occurred, I had gone to the place where people go for morning strolling, and the children especially go for playing cricket. Large number, at least 100-120 people at any one point could be seen playing around, and hawkers too. What they explained to me was the first wave, when it came, it started digging into the sea beach, and the people don't see anything strange, but it went beyond the normal reach of the sea waves, and it started receding, and the portion which is not open, which is not exposed, also got exposed. And when the waves went back, people thought that nothing is happening. Suddenly the next wave which came, it went far ahead, and the entire Marina beach was filled with water. And it is fairly a higher place, and whatever was there around, the children playing, whatever was there on the sea beach was taken inside by the waves, and nothing was visible. When I had reached that spot, I saw suddenly nothing was there, and certain things which were not belonging to Chennai were also seen, like a boat which belonged to Nagapattinam. It is far off place, and other shores of Tamil Nadu, the things had travelled, and people do quote that the items belonging to Sri Lanka also landed. But the point is, we had lost so many lives. and the people who are there are not located anymore. It was a terrible sight. I could never forget in my life.
2004 tsunami was actually in the sense of disasters. You know, disasters keep happening, major earthquakes happen, cyclones happen, but tsunami that time was totally new to this part of the world. You know, it's common in Pacific Islands and all those places. So that time it was stealthy, ferocious, and it was not known to us. So that led to almost 13 countries getting affected, over 2 lakh people dying. Though it started in Sumatra, majorly in India, 13 districts in Tamil Nadu were affected. Of the lot, say almost 6,065 people died in Nagapattinam. In India, roughly 12,000 people died, and quite a lot of people were missing.
While tsunami's 3 Ds, death, devastation and destruction, shocked everywhere, an interesting development in the Indian territory of Andaman and Nicobar Islands caught the attention of the entire world. The first information received at the Disaster Management Center had confirmed that at least 4 Andmanese tribe perished in the large destructive waves caused by the tsunami. The effort of the first rescue team and the backup team that went in search of the first team neither yielded any info nor was able to reach back. However, the call of instinct and the ray of hope was so powerful that the aerial search operations continued with renewed vigor. The aerial rescue team noticed hazy movements atop a cluster of palm trees. A tribal girl of age around 13 years was found clinging along with 3 children.
At the time of the tsunami, I had taken 3 children and climbed up the coconut tree to safeguard the 3 children and myself. When the water level started reducing, then I came down. On 30th December, we were brought to Adi Basera in Port Blair.
30 दिसंबर को लेके आए पोर्ट ब्लेयर आदि बसेरा पे.
The story behind the revival rhythm of a forgotten tribe was splashed across global media, causing zest, joy and enthusiasm in an otherwise gloomy atmosphere of the tsunami. The local administration also promptly notified that there was not a single casualty among the great Andmanese tribes. A newborn was also added. Now, the big question. When total annihilation was the order of the tsunami days, what is the miracle behind 100% survival of these tribes? As regards the great Andmanese belief in God,
they don't believe in God. They don't have any God to believe in, but they do respect, I should say, and they do believe there are some environmental forces like winds or tsunami, you can say, and other environmental aspects from which they have to protect themselves. So, I remember that one of them told me, well, now they don't do any hunting in the sea as such, other than one person, Peje, who is in the tribe. But when they used to take their boat to hunt dugong or turtles in the sea, they used to kind of pray. I used to say, see, in our language the word pray comes, or in Hindi prarthana. They don't have these words. They only remember. They don't pray, they don't do prarthana. They only remember their spirits whom they regard a lot, and they also remember particular kind of a wind which generally blows and takes away the land and takes away, destroys, and that is known as Bilikhu. So, Bilikhu is not a name of a god, Bilikhu is name of a wind, and that wind they remember that they chant some kind of you can say mantra, but they chant some kind of great Andmanese words. So, to cool down the that biliko, so that they can go on hunting escapade. But they don't have God, they only believe in spirits, and spirits are those who are converted from their own ancestors. So they think that when their ancestors die or when their old people die, they become spirits. So they in fact, it's a very interesting study we made. They distinguish between two kinds of cosmos or two kinds of world, one which smells and the one which does not smell. You and I smell, and all the other goods that you are seeing in this room or anywhere by the side of the seashore, even pebbles, this is a brain coral from your Andaman Sea, everything smells. Whatever is there, every living or what we call dead, they don't call it dead, they say they are living, because there are different kinds of smells from different kinds of stones. Everything smells, the only thing that doesn't smell is the spirits. So this is how they divide the world.
Whether these tribes were aware of native and traditional forecasting and forewarning techniques and skills, could they process, decipher and decode nature's early warning gestures and symptoms? Why did the scientific inquisitiveness and temperament of modern man fail to grasp the skills of these tribes? The cardinal principle for them is unshakable faith in taking cue from nature, understanding the life and living symphony, and assessing the alchemy of Panchabhutas, 5 elements of nature. For instance, honey being collected without the use of fire, and catching fish without using a hook and killing worms, using specific herbs and leaves to attract fishes.
And when I asked my senior informant, Boa Senior, what was Ain good for, and she said that Ain was very good for actually fishing. I said, how can a bush be useful for fishing? And then she told me that they used to pluck Ain leaves and crush them, like this, and put them in water. The fish used to become senseless and they used to float up. And this is one easy way of catching fish. Well, their whole life is with the nature, in the nature, for the nature, because this is what I realized, and they are hunter and gatherers. So they know more, their knowledge about the nature is much advanced than ours. They know more about the sea, the sunshine, the climate changes, the herbs, the plants, animals and birds also. And as you can see, I finally also had to work on the names of the great Andmanese birds, because they know so many names of the birds and their habitat, how do the birds live, what is the flight tendency, where do they reside, are they endemic birds or are they immigrant birds. They know everything about this, and they were so much amalgamated with the nature that it appears that there was no need to bring them to the city life, because they were very self-sustained and people, and they never depended upon any outside help, because they always say the forest gives us everything that we need, and from from food to the other sustenance and also peace. So they are the ones from whom we should learn about this.
For the isolated great Andmanese, this is in a way compelling Homo sapiens not just to look afresh at even Darwin's idea of evolution, but to restudy the cordial equation that exists between man and nature as exemplarily displayed and practiced by the great Andmanese. How better to complete the success and survival story of great Andmanese than by echoing the golden words of William Wordsworth? Nature never did betray the heart that loved her.
सूर्यो में चक्षुवाता प्राणो अंतरिक्षु आत्मा पृथिवी शरीरं माता भूमि पुत्रोऽहं पृथिव्या